Hey everyone, welcome back to another video. I promise this will be my final reaction video to the Douglas Murray appearance on Joe Rogan versus Dave Smith. And the reason why I wanted to share this one in particular is because Douglas shares a very emotional and heartfelt take and reality of the aftermath of October 7th. Now, Douglas has been to the Gaza Strip. He's seen the atrocities that took place, and he knows a lot more than what you or I would know, especially because we haven't been there at all. And lots of people, especially online, were saying that Douglas's argument, even Dave Smith was saying that it's a bad argument because Dave hasn't been to Gaza. So why in the world would he know really what's going on? And that's when it comes down to just watching propaganda. You're watching a one-sided viewpoint, because if you watch what is coming out of Gaza from the Palestinians or the H word terror organization, then sure, you're obviously going to get a viewpoint that shows the atrocities that are happening to them. But if you watch the Israeli propaganda, obviously you're going to get the Israeli side that things are going quite well. And that's what I mean. You've got to be careful with who you listen to, what you're listening to, and when it comes down to who you're listening to, you've got to prove whether or not what they're saying is actually real and truthful, and you get to the actual truth. I much rather trust someone that I know is trustworthy, and I know Douglas Murray to be trustworthy, that has been to Gaza and has seen all the atrocities. Now, obviously, my viewpoint, if I was to go to Gaza, would be probably a little bit different to what Douglas has actually seen, because obviously I see the world a little bit differently to what Douglas does. Doesn't take away from the fact that there are atrocities that happened after October 7th or on October 7th, and the atrocities that actually took place afterwards as well. I believe two things can be true at the same time. One, the terror organization that wiped out thousands of Israelis on October 7th was cruel and horrific. And also, innocent children being in the crossfire because of what the terror organization decided to do once they got rich. And then their charter, it is to wipe out every single Israeli on the face of the earth. So do you want that organization to continue to exist? I personally don't. But yes, I understand that it is a casualty of war and it is really horrific, and I don't want it to continue to happen. And the only way for it to stop, really, is if the terror organization that is controlling Palestinians at the moment and Gaza, that were voted in 2005, I believe it was, is if they give up all the hostages, because they haven't done that yet, believe it or not, and they completely surrender and they're punished as a result. But I don't see them doing that either. So while we can criticize what Israel is doing at the moment, and because of the utter horrendous atrocities that are taking place, it's easy for us to do that in the comforts of our own home. I haven't really touched this subject matter because I'm not an expert. I have a viewpoint based around what I have seen, and I know based around like how Jesus would feel at the moment. Obviously, he wouldn't feel good. I'm not saying I know what Jesus feels like, but seriously, he died for us. He gave up his life for us. He hates, I believe, fundamentally, sin. And because of sin, death was brought about. And as a result, we've got all these atrocities happening in our world because the sinful heart of man has obviously been to destroy and to take. So when I look at Douglas and what he has to say about this horrendous reaction after October 7th, it gets quite emotional. Have a watch.
I am so startled by the post-October the 7th world, not just in Israel and Gaza and everywhere where I've spent most of the last 18 months, but in what's happening here in the United States of America. It blows my mind, much of the response here, and the desire to leap over the first victims of this and go on to all of the proximate causes, theoretical causes, what-ifs, and so on. I was, as I described in the opening of this book, I was in New York on the 7th of October, and I woke up and started seeing what was happening. and discovered that later that day already there were plans to organize a protest in Times Square. And what was the protest in Times Square? Massive protest in support of Hamas as the massacre was still going on. And one of the things I just cannot get out of my head is why in the last 18 months, when Hamas did what they did, have so many people made excuses for them, or decided to side with them, or deny their actions, or excuse their actions?
Why do you think that is?
Several very, very big things. One is, I think people wanted to ignore the nature of the atrocity because it was so appalling that it went against much of their narrative. I was at a reunion of one of the survivors of the Nova Party on one occasion, and he said to me, "What would you do if this had happened in your country?" And I thought, well, it hasn't happened at this scale, but something like it has happened. The Ariana Grande arena bombing in Manchester in 2017, the Bataclan massacre in Paris in 2015, the Pulse nightclub shooting in 2015. But all of these occasions when young people were murdered for being at a pop concert or a nightclub, the world's attention, the world's empathy, the world's sympathy went to the victims. Only in the case of the young Israelis dancing in the early hours of the morning on October the 7th, 2023, do the victims become victimized again and not believed. The era we lived through in the late 2010s was the era of believable women. And of all the Israeli women who were raped that morning, much of the international community does not want to listen to them at all, and certainly doesn't want to believe them. And there are many reasons. One, at the most fundamental level, is that I think a part of a generation that's coming up has been told there is something especially wicked about Israel, that there is something especially wicked about Israel's existence and its actions and its people, and it means that when their people are burned alive in their homes or raped at a music festival and shot in the head, they are uniquely undeserving of sympathy. And I think that people have been indoctrinated by very bad actors into this, and as a result have excused atrocities or will make excuses for them, make excuses for the people who do them. I think, in addition, it plays to some of the darkest things of the regional mind as well as the international mind. The aims of Hamas, their stated aims, include the annihilation of the Jewish people. And October the 7th, they had their best go at doing that. And the fact that in a decision between whether or not you're on the side of the people who want to dance and live in peace with their neighbors, or whether you're on the side of the people who want to rampage through a dance party bar in the early morning, macheteing at people, I find it amazing that there are so many people who don't know which side they're on. But there are a lot of them. There are a lot of reasons for that. But one of the foremost reasons is the fact that the state of Israel has been uniquely libeled, has been uniquely lied about. Its history has been uniquely lied about. It has been uniquely put under an international spotlight and then misrepresented in a way which I cannot think of many other countries in the world that have been treated that way. And there are deep reasons for it and shallow reasons for it. The deep reasons include some of the most ancient bigotries of the human heart, and the shallow reasons are people who don't know what the hell they're talking about.
If Israel put down its arms and stopped attacking, stopped trying to annihilate terror organization, and yes, innocent people are caught in the crossfire, and that is horrendous. And I hate that. But if Israel was to give up and surrender, then Israel would no longer exist, which is exactly what lots of people, these bad faith actors, truly want. They're so against Israel. Although they may not say it that way, their rhetoric is alluding to that fact. They don't want them to exist. They want Israel to stop, what they're doing so that the terror organization can regroup and more than likely commit more October 7th. And that kind of narrative is playing out every single time that you have these people that constantly come to the defense of the terror organization. And I think the terror organization wanted that from the very beginning, because if it's one thing that is incredibly powerful in today's day and age, it is propaganda. Propaganda machine worked in Nazi Germany, and it's working again now. In fact, it's working almost overtime now to make it known that this small country in the Middle East, the one democracy in the Middle East amongst all these Muslim countries, it has no right to exist, apparently. And the atrocities that we are constantly seeing from pretty much one side, I guess you could say, yes, it is horrible to see, and I hate saying it. But if the terror organization surrendered, gave back the hostages, there would be peace. I believe that. But once again, Douglas points out the level of rage and the narrative that is shifted seemingly against Israel after October 7th. Kind of wild, isn't it? Like here in Australia, in Melbourne and in Sydney, Melbourne has been captured enormously. This is a kind of subject you dare not touch when you're having conversations with people, because it is such a volatile subject matter. I mean, it's like you can't even have a viewpoint that is against the Palestinians, when really it's not about so much the Palestinians, even though the Palestinians are the ones that voted in the terror group in the first place. And given the opportunity, they would more than likely join in wiping out Israel, especially after what Israel's done now in retaliation. So what do you think? I personally wouldn't want to be in the position. And the reason why I haven't touched this subject much, if at all, is because I don't know. I've got no answers. I don't know. I know what I don't want, and that is I don't want terror to exist. I don't want terror organizations to exist, and they're going to continue existing as long as we allow them to exist. So realities, the harsh realities of when you look at evil, this is exactly what you see. They don't care about whether or not children get caught in the crossfire. They use them as propaganda material because it sparks an emotion. It's done that around the world. And it's just, you're looking at it going, I don't want there to be war at all, but this is going to continue to get a lot worse in the future, especially if you've got people in your own country that are siding with terror. That's actually scary and alarming. Anyway, I thought what Douglas said was an emotional plea, sharing the truth and the realities of what happened. And so many people are captured at the moment by one particular narrative. I can see that two things can be true at the same time, but I know what I don't want to happen. And the only way that I don't want that one thing to happen is going to happen is if they're wiped out. The terror group is wiped out. It's the only way I see it, unless Jesus comes back soon. Anyway, that's enough from me, but you guys take care, be blessed, and I'll see you all in the next video.